Hello?
This is the president of HOKA. We need you to help Sage Canaday with his deadlift.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can
This
help with that.
message will self-destruct in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, here we go. We're back in the room. So we're gonna watch this Sage Canaday Hex Bar deadlift video. We're gonna see what we can see and hopefully give some advice maybe to you or to him if he ever actually watches this as to what I would suggest he would do to correct some aspects of his deadlift form. Now, his deadlift form is actually not that bad. Really, some corrective exercises and things aside from just trying to deadlift differently would help him learn what we call the proprioception, that ability to kind of feel your body in space and be able to flex different things. I think there's a couple aspects he's just having a hard time controlling, but we'll get into that in a second. Some notes in the video. He worked at the gym, has some idea what he's doing. He's an elite level runner and he coaches others. He clearly knows a lot about physiology and running. He makes tips on running form, so I'm hoping he knows a lot about like anatomy and kind of the biomechanics of running. Maybe the biomechanics of a deadlift, something he's not that familiar with and not as familiar with, but I mean, it's the same body, so a lot of the principles are the same. He makes a comment here about how the weight is light. The light weight might actually be allowing him to compensate in ways that you wouldn't want him to compensate normally, right? Because he's strong. You look at him, he looks like a strong guy. He can move 135 pounds probably with the extensors of his back alone, just the muscles that help him stand up straight through his spine. Now what we want him to do is move it with his glutes, with his hamstrings, with the posterior chain, using his quads. We want him to move it with his thighs, right? And sometimes if you lift too light, you train yourself to move with those compensatory muscles instead of actually loading where we want you to load. Maybe shorter sets with a heavier load, even just doing a heavy single might actually help him and would probably correct a couple of the small things that I see. But part of this, and he mentions, and this is the other thing, is he seems terrified of hurting his lower back and hamstrings. Now, yeah, no one wants to hurt their lower back and hamstrings, for sure. And then this should be an exercise that strengthens your lower back and your hamstrings. Being scared of the deadlift is going to hinder you. You're going to have a really hard time getting out of the pocket, and clearly he needs to get his form better so he can be confident in the motion, and then he can lift heavy. So it's this, what's the word? It's a conundrum, that's for sure, where lifting heavy might help him learn to do the motion better, but to lift heavy, he has to learn to do the motion better. So it's a funny thing. And he then mentions his hamstring flexibility, which is something I'll notice. I'll show you where I see that kind of presenting actually in his body. He mentions that that's why his knees bend so much. I didn't even think it was so much the knees. There's actually in his hips is where I saw the hamstring tightness. So let's get into the video. Before he even does anything, something I would already correct. The way that these trap bars are is similar to, you can picture a normal barbell going through the middle here, but what they do is they wrap the bar around both so you can kind of stand right in the middle. Now what this allows you to do, in a really nice way, is actually stand in the middle of the hex bar, where normally the bar would actually be moving through your shins. Well, you can't do that with a normal bar, right? But already he's standing further back as if it was a normal bar, but he's even standing further back than what we would normally want him to do. So if you think about the bottom of the deadlift, whenever he reaches in and grabs the bar, that's where he's probably in the most compromised position. Everything's very flexed. Standing up here, he's nice and stacked, that's where the body kind of wants to be. He could hold a lot more force up at the top of the deadlift than he can at the bottom. The further this gets away from his body, the more compromised he is as well. So what we want generally is to see this circle kind of bounce right over, or if you had a barbell, you'd want that bounce right over the middle of the foot. So you place that as kind of the first step. You put your feet under the bar, put your hands on the bar, but that bar moves in a straight line from the middle of the foot up to the hip and back down, and you move your body around the bar, not the bar around your body. And what's happening here, and you'll notice, is that we place it, he grabs the bar, he stands up, and the bar ends up on this diagonal bar path, and so diagonal in fact that he hits this helmet because he thinks he's out of the way, but he pulls the bar back, right? And the bar almost hits the mirror here too, right? So he moves over to the side, but it's actually because he's standing too far back, not because he's too far to the side. That's the first thing I would fix. So I would just get him standing further forward. And already he's kind of, the bar is, he seems to want to put it down over his toes, which I think is why he's getting some, like he's having a hard time with this motion. It's a harder way to do this motion. He would be better balanced if he pulled the bar back. I read in the comments, a couple people commenting about his spine. There's some obvious curvature of the spine here, but we'll go over kind of the 3 points that we would want him to correct, or at least have an idea of wanting to correct, so he can kind of flex into the right motion and try to do the best he can. So the first is what's happening with his head here. So it's a big little pet peeve with strength coaches, and your cervical spine, this part of your spine that connects your head to the rest of your body, is still part of your spine. What's happening here is the spine, you have this natural curve in the thoracic spine, and then your cervical spine does curve the opposite way, but not this much. He's cranking it back. What we want him to do is to just tuck his chin. Often in the gym, what we'll do with athletes who have a hard time with this is we'll get them to like hold a softball in their chin and to deadlift the whole time with it while holding that, and that keeps the rest of your spine straight. The deadlifts are fantastic for learning how to maintain a neutral spine. That's the first thing. Get him to tuck his head a bit. Next, the shoulder blades, and this is where I think most people are kind of noticing the actual rounding in his back, is that his shoulder blades are protracting, so they're wrapping from back here, they're wrapping kind of down around the front. So you can imagine if you put your arms out and kind of try to walk like a zombie and try to reach as far forward as you can, that is protracted. What we want is, if you can, now try stand up straight, and then try bringing your arms back without bending your elbows. Now that retraction is really challenging for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have what we call the proprioception, that ability to kind of feel your body and flex muscles intentionally. They can't propriocept or actually flex the muscles like their rhomboids or some of the muscles in the rotator cuff. So is it a strength issue? Is it that he can't cue it? I don't know, but I'll go over some exercises. We'll go over what I would get him to do to actually be able to retract his shoulder blades. In the middle of the spine. It's not bad, even like a relatively flat lumbar, which is fine. I've seen for sure more curved in some like very strong powerlifters. And this is actually where I see the tightness in his hamstrings. And I think what they're doing is they're rotating. He's getting what we call a posterior pelvic tilt. So they're actually screwing his hips in a counterclockwise motion here, right? So what we want almost is for him to rotate his hips the other way, right in the pocket, in the bottom, rotate his hips so he's almost pushing his tail out, rotating it anteriorly, and that will help that nice natural curve in his lower back. And again, that is something similar to what's happening with the shoulder blades. I wonder if, I'm sure he's strong enough to do it. He's a strong guy, he's an elite level runner, but can he just do that motion? He has to teach his brain to connect with what's happening here and learn to do that. Yeah, it's a little bit better there, right? See, it's getting a little bit of a flatter back here still. And the last thing I see is, and he really wants to get up into a retracted shoulder position, but there, that's it. So he ends up here. Now you can see his upper traps are engaged. You can see he's shrugging a little bit. What we want is almost for him to kind of like drop his shoulders, push his chest out, squeeze his shoulder blades together. But he's trying to almost pulling with his arm. He's doing an okay job of getting his hips forward at the top. I think he would get a bit more glute activation if he went from a bit of an anterior tilt to a posterior tilt, if he kind of rocked the hips a little bit more. Because here you can still see they're rounded. But that posterior tilt at the top is actually what we want. We want you at the top to kind of bring your hips forward and lock out. That's what we call it. You want to bring those hips all the way underneath. So that posterior tilt at the top is actually good. His setup, really, this is the main thing that needs work. And he'll be able to lift way heavier. If he corrected a couple of those things and tried some heavy lifts, he would be lifting well over 200 pounds in a month. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's go look at some exercises we would get him to do to correct that. So I'm going to demonstrate how I would perform this motion. We don't have a hex bar here, so this machine essentially does the exact same thing as what a hex bar would do. So I'm going to go over just the setup of how I would coach him to hopefully, again, get those hips rotate a little bit and just retract the shoulder blades a little bit more. So first thing we would do here is make sure that, so if you imagine the middle of this handle as being the middle of the bar, we want that to be right over the middle of the foot. How he was lifting is almost like he was back here, and just so far out. And even doing this, I can feel that much more in my lower back. So what I want to do is I want to get so that the weight is distributed right through the middle of my foot. So first thing I do, get here, and then you notice my back is rounded here. What I would get him to do is kind of try to push his tail out, and that hopefully will straighten out that lumbar spine. But instead of rotation here, he's a little rotated in. We want to be rotated out the other way. The other thing is then retracting the shoulder blades. Feel like you're puffing your chest out. Chest out, hips back. Just stand straight up. Bring your hips right up underneath you. And then try to come back. Same thing. Set up. Let go. Back. Sweet. Some simple corrective exercises we get him to do to first work on scapular retraction and bringing your shoulder blades back together. So, again, that zombie position of having your arms straight, reaching out forward, and then squeezing your shoulder blades and pulling your arms back as far as you can without bending your elbows. So reach forward and then pull them back. Learning to do that first, that might be enough. If you can learn how to do that again, I think the muscles in the back are probably strong enough. But what we would do is we would get just a little bit of assistance. So put a preacher bar or straight bar, something on a cable, or something with the resistance. You can do this with resistance bands, with bungees, really with anything. But you want some resistance now. Get into a position where you let your shoulder blades roll forward, and then again, without bending your elbows, just pull the shoulder blades back. Give it a squeeze for a couple seconds, roll forward, and again, try to roll back. Now, compensations people are probably going to do is it might end up into a bit of a shrug. You really want to resist that shrug. We want to feel like your shoulder blades are moving together and down on your back, as opposed to together and up. So together and down. The next exercise would be pretty similar, and this is going to move you into a position that's going to feel a lot like what you want at the top of the deadlift, which is standing up tall and shoulder blades back. Is we're going to do a straight arm lat pull down. So we end up here, just a little bit of a knee bend, hip bend. What you're going to do is you're going to pull this weight down, and you're trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together and get here. This is going to be very similar to the stress you're going to feel of this wants to pull us into a protracted position, but we're trying to stay retracted and trying to pull that weight down. So again, arms up, you're trying to keep the arms straight. We're trying to kind of almost puff the chest and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Good. Okay, so the next position we're going to work on is, or the next motion we're going to work on is how to anteriorly and posteriorly. So forward and back, that rotation of the pelvis. And one of the best exercises we can do here is a glute bridge. So using the bench, you're going to move the hips down, move the hips up. So come here, you're going to find a position on your shoulders where we want this to be stable. You want to pretend like there's a pin coming through your shoulder. What we're going to do is you're going to push in the heels. You're going to really try to flex the glutes and push your hips up, essentially as high as you can. You should feel here this nice thing. If you have your hands free, you can feel your glutes and make sure that it's the glutes, in fact, that are working. Now, what we want is, in this position, a good motion for him to be able to do would be to first do, what would that be? That would be an anterior tilt and then a posterior tilt. And you notice my hips aren't actually moving up and down. I'm just rotating anteriorly, posteriorly. And at the bottom of this position, he is a bit posteriorly rotated, and we want him to get more here, and that's going to help straighten out that back. At the top, you want to get up to the top, and you want to posteriorly tilt. You want to tilt back this way. At the bottom, you can anteriorly tilt. And I would do this. I would work on transitioning bottom to the top. And you'll notice that it kind of just keeps the spine in that good straight position, which is what we want. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way through this point, good for you. That was a very long video. I need to work on being less long-winded or more concise. I'm repeating myself again. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. If there's anything else you want me to talk about at some point, it's literally my first video, so there's so many other things we can talk about. If somehow Sage sees this, awesome. I would love to hear if any of those tips or if any of that actually helps him, get better at deadlifting. Cool. Thanks. Happy run.